Hello my beautiful magical beings, it is Dragon Slayer 15 here, and today guys we are going to be continuing Shinso X Feared Listener Hanahaki AU, and this is part 2. Alright, let me clarify a couple of things first. Now, when I say listener, I'm talking about you in the present time. But when I say YN, I'm talking about you still, but in the very first Hanahaki series that I did with Bakugo. It's kind of a overlap, okay? And yeah, without further ado, let's get into this, shall we? Shinso sat on the floor of a small bathroom, catching his breath. He had just finished coughing up fully grown flowers. He sat there, wanting the pain to go away, but his body told him, nope. A constant burning sensation in his mouth and throat and chest, and he couldn't shake the taste of acid sitting on his tongue. He sat there for a couple more seconds until he heard a knock at the door. "Who is it?" he said hoarsely. There was silence for a moment. Then the voice on the other side of the door said, "It's Midoriya. Are you okay in there?" he asked. Shinso stood up for a moment and stared into the toilet. Yup, there were definitely fully grown flowers in there. He had to tell you at one point. Then he flushed the toilet and went to wash his hands. "Come in, I'm fine," he said, and Deku opened the door. He stood there, staring slack-jawed at Shinso for a second. Shinso caught him staring. "What?" "Shinso, you look terrible. Are you okay?" Deku said. Shinso stared at himself in the mirror for a moment. He was right. His face was gaunt and almost devoid of color entirely. His eyes were hollow-looking and more sunken in than usual, and his cheekbones were more predominant than they had normally been, and he looked thinner, a lot thinner. Shinso sighed and hung his head. "No, I'm not okay." "What's wrong?" Deku asked. You know what? I'm just gonna come out and say it. I have Hanahaki disease," Shinso said as he stared at the floor. Deku stared at him, wide-eyed. "Wait, you're not joking, are you?" Shinso stared up at him for a moment. "Do you really think this is a joke?" "What do you want, Midoriya?" "Shinso, you need to talk to Listener. You have to talk to them. Because nobody wants to see you die. Not me, not Denki or Jiro or any of us. We're your friends. We don't want to see you die." Shinso scoffed and rolled his eyes. "Sure, like you've ever seen this before." And he turned to walk out of the room. And Deku grabbed his shoulder at the last second. "Yes, I have. I saw it. And a really good friend here. Last year. You didn't know them. But they died here." "What?" "They died in the girls' dorms." "I heard about them." "But how?" "They died of Hanahaki disease, Shinso. And we can still contact them. And I think it'll help your case." "What do you mean?" "If Listener sees what is going to happen if they don't listen, and if the disease isn't cured, then maybe it'll knock some sense into them." Shinso rubbed in between his eyes. Midoriya, I appreciate the offer, but you can't force them to love me. Don't break up with them, please. Don't. I know you're thinking about it. Just don't, Shinso said, and began to walk out the door. Fine, I'll just do it myself, Deku thought, and he turned and walked back towards his own dorm. The next day, you were walking through the hall leading up to Class 1A when Deku stopped you. Hey, listener, can we talk? He said. Sure, Deku. What's up? You said. Come with me, Deku said, and he took your hand. He led you down the hall, out of the building, and towards the dorms. Why are we heading back? I just left this place, you said, as you walked inside. Listener, do you know that old girls' dorm that's vacant? Vacant? Well, yeah. I mean, I've only ever heard about it. I've never been inside. Well, follow me, he said, and he led you up the flight of stairs to the girls' dorms. You walked down the long hallway until you stopped near the end. There was a door there. It looked normal, just like any other dorm room door, until you opened it. The room was dimly lit, but not vacant. There was a bed in the center of the room, a window off to the left side, and a small table, almost like a nightstand next to the bed. You walked over to it. You didn't see anything out of the ordinary until you looked by the pillows. There by the pillows sat what appeared to be a red envelope and a small tape recorder. You turned to Deku and asked, Can I touch any of this? He looked at you for a moment. Yes, just don't turn on the tape recorder, he said, and he turned and left the room for a moment. You stood there, in this empty room. It didn't smell musty or just aged, but it was crisp, clean. Everything had been kept tidy. Then why was this room vacant? Who could be here? You picked up the red envelope off the bed and turned it over. It was empty. Had there been a letter in it? Then you saw a name on it, written in black marker. Katsuki Bakugo. Bakugo? Why is his name on this letter? And if the letter was addressed to him, why did he leave the envelope here? You heard Deku close the door behind him, and you turned to see him carrying a box. And he walked over and sat down on the bed. Sit, he said, patting the seat next to him. He walked over and sat down beside him. And he opened the box. And to your shock and surprise, there sat a spirit board. You got up and quickly backed away. You weren't really one to dabble in the supernatural, just of the fear of accidentally letting a demon into your home, so you didn't mess with them. Deku turned and stared at you for a moment. It's not gonna bite. Come on. You laughed nervously. Actually, I think I better go, huh? Then you turned, and to your surprise, there stood Bakugo, standing in front of the doorway with his arms crossed. Come on, he said, and walked over to the bed. You sat down, but you were still really uneasy about it. Deku took out a small, triangular stand, supposedly the planchette of the board, and placed it on the hello space. Bakugo placed 2 fingers on it, and Deku motioned his head for you to do the same, and you did. Deku mumbled quietly, Wyan, are you here? he said, and waited for a few seconds. A cold breeze fluttered through the air. It made you shiver. Then you felt something by your arm. You turned to see rose petals? Red rose petals? They weren't on the bed before. How did they get there? Bakugo saw them, and he began to shake. "Kachan, are you okay?" Deku asked him quietly. He just nodded without responding. This time Bakugo spoke. "Baby, are you here?" he said. His voice was calm, but shaky, as if he was going to cry. Then, out of the corner of your eye, you saw something sitting by the window. It was a person. But why did they look so familiar? Then they stood and turned to face you. It was you. But how? That's impossible. You were sitting right here on the bed. That can't be right. What's happening? The apparition walked up to you and cupped your head in its hands, its icy cold fingers drilling through your skin. It made you shudder. Then it leaned in close and whispered, "Go save Shinso," and then backed away. Bakugo turned and saw the apparition standing there. This time it spoke, not whispered. "Katsuki." It sounded as if it was ready to cry, but not sad tears, happy tears. The two of them embraced, if you could call it an embrace. YN just went through Bakugo. Then Deku turned to you. "You need to go talk to Shinso. Please." YN died of Hanahaki disease a year ago in this very room. And Shinso's going to die. Just talk to him. Please. Listener, we don't want to lose him. But I don't love him, Deku. I love you. You can't just force me to love somebody. I mean, are you crazy? Deku suddenly grabbed your shoulders and shook you slightly. Yes, I am crazy. Listener, to be completely honest with you, I've fallen out of love. I'm sorry. But it just needed to be said. Please, go talk to him. We're scared. We don't want to lose him. He's important. He's our friend. He's your best friend, for Pete's sake. You turned and shoved Deku away from you. Are you crazy? No. You can't force me to do anything. All of a sudden, YN turned and snapped her head towards the door. Then she slowly raised a thin, pale, transparent arm with a pointed finger on the end. There's somebody out there. They don't have much time left, they said, and they turned to face you and floated over towards you. Now you could see what they were wearing. They wore one of the uniforms, but there was blood all over the front, and red rose petals glittering their hands and on their mouth. What was happening? Then a sudden realization kicked in. Something that they had been telling you for the past 3 minutes. Go talk to Shinso. He didn't have much time. You let go of the planchette and sprinted out the door as fast as you could. You had to save him. You just had to. And guys, that is it for part 2 of this series. I am so excited to share this with y'all. I cannot wait. Also, I'm using a new video editor, and it takes a little bit longer to edit and save videos. I'll try to make a video Friday, if I can, or Thursday, depending on if I have time or not. But, as always, guys, I love you. Please have a good day, and you know what? I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!